Hey there, y'all. Welcome to my review of how my year went with my my second grader. See, I'm already messing up. So I am Lena. I am a mom of 4 kiddos. I have a 5th grader. I consider myself a homeschooling mom of 2.5. I have one finishing up 5th grade, one finishing up 2nd, a preschooler, and then a toddler. She is 19 months and full of energy. So that's who I am. I've already done a review of how my 5th grader's year went and what I liked and what I didn't like. So if you like that, you can look for that. But this is about my 2nd grader and what I did with him. So when I pulled him, I talked before about how I had some concerns with my 5th grader and where he was. With my 2nd grader, I had no concerns when I pulled him. He was just going to be homeschooling with me because that's what felt like the right thing to do. But I wasn't overly concerned with where he was, and he didn't really have any problems. So, jumping right in, for math, just like with my 5th grader, we went with SACS and math. And just like with my 5th grader, I loved it. So I did the pre-assessment for him, and I knew he was good at math. His 1st grade teacher had talked to me about how he was good at math, and so I knew that he would do well. But he almost passed the 2nd grade assessment and tested into 3rd grade. So I considered starting him in 3rd grade, but I didn't want to push him, especially this being my first time. So I decided instead to start him halfway through the book. So when you get the lower levels, when you get the Saxons 1, 2, and 3, this is my teacher's manual, and then it comes with 2 workbooks, one for the first half and one for the second half. So I only ordered the second half, and we started there. So we did about 70 lessons in here, and many of them we were able to double up on. We would do 2 of the lessons, and then I would cherry pick his worksheets. I would pull out the worksheets, and I would pick which problems on it I felt like he needed to work on so that it didn't get too redundant. Because this uses the spiral method where it is constantly reviewing and it is moving at very small baby steps. I worried a little bit that it would get redundant and boring for him because he is a little bit more advanced and doesn't always need that review. But the one thing I didn't take into account when I was thinking about that was that he is a perfectionist, and if he starts to get things wrong or have a hard time, he will just shut down and he will throw his pencil or his paper and just say, I can't do this, and completely give up. So once again, I found that the spiral method of teaching math for my kids was a great way to approach the subject because it allowed him to be successful with almost every single thing he does. So we finished up this one in just a couple of months. We finished it in October, and we moved on to Saxon 3. And we will finish this at the end of this year. We will get all the way through, which I guess technically would put him a year ahead in school. I know a lot of people don't keep track of their grades, what grades their kids in, and it's really easy to lose track. This is the reason I keep calling him a 3rd grader, because he's in 3rd grade math. But for me it's important because I don't actually know how long we will be homeschooling. I am taking it year by year, every year praying about what is best for our family. And so I can't guarantee that this is long term, so I don't want to lose track of where we are. So that's where he is. He's going to finish this. I am a little bit nervous about his jump into the next book, which will be the 5-4, which is where my 5th grader started this year. And if you go back and watch my 5th grade video, you'll see some of the problems that I had starting 5-4. And I'm just a little bit worried that the workload is going to really stress my son out next year. But I've been working on a game plan and how to slowly work him into it now that I've learned how to make things work for my family and that I don't have to be a slave to how the curriculum is set up. That is definitely one of the most important things I've learned this year. So he's doing wonderfully. We are going to spend this summer working a lot on getting our multiplication facts down. He still gets a little bit flustered trying to do them quickly, but he is doing really well with it, and I'm really happy. For language arts, we went with The Good and the Beautiful, again, because I could get it for free, and as a first-time homeschooling mom who had no idea what she was doing, I didn't want to commit to something that I would then really regret paying a bunch of money for. And The Good and the Beautiful has a lot of really good reviews, and we've liked it. I definitely had this kid on the right level. If you watch my 5th grade level, you'll know I did not have him on the right level. But my 2nd grader was doing level 2, which is the right level for him, and he has done really well with it. He is my artistic one, but he actually did not get into the art things as much. I'm not really sure why. He just did not totally love them. But he didn't hate them. He obviously still did a good job. Here's one of his watercolor paintings that he did for an assignment. And since we did it all online, I don't have a book to show you, but he did really well. We have some examples. Ignore his atrocious handwriting. We will be working on it. But this is some of his writing that he did. He really likes to do the writing if he can illustrate it, so that definitely helps. But one thing I learned that I had never thought to do before was to allow him to dictate things to me, and then I would write them. I'm trying to find a good example. I'm sorry. So he really enjoyed doing that because then he could tell me the stories that were in his head and answer the questions in his head without the stress of trying to write them down, and it's worked so well. So here we have the story he told, and then I would always go and find an illustration so that he could look at it and feel like he had created a little book. I hope this is in the frame. So that worked really well. He also, he has just great ideas in his head, but they get stuck in his head. So one of the things that The Good and the Beautiful had us doing in level 2 was we had a page, and when we were talking about adjectives and sensory words, we called them beautiful sentences, and we would give him a boring sentence and he would turn it into something beautiful, and I would write it down because it takes away the stress of him writing, and so then he tries to cut out all those sensory words and those fun adjectives because he doesn't want to go to the trouble to write them down because it's hard for him. And so he could come up with these amazing, beautiful sentences if I was writing. So right now during the summer, not during the summer. Summer hasn't started. He finished this in early March. We accidentally went a little fast. And I don't see the need to push him on to level 3. We will start that next year and work through it. So because of that, we are taking time to just do some workbooks and some maintenance. And one of the things we're doing are some writing prompts. So we started a writing prompt that told him to write about, Write a story about a trip to Mars. And I told him that we would take turns. So he tells me the story that's in his head, and then I will write down a sentence, and then I will have him tell me the next sentence and give it to him, and he will write that sentence while I retell him the sentence he told me. And we go back and forth, so he still is getting some writing and getting some of that practice, but it's not as much pressure to do all the work himself. And we are on, I think, the 5th page of it. It's going well, and he's being really imaginative and having a lot of fun with it. And I'm excited to then take it and put it on the computer and add some illustrations to it and show him that he created a book. I think that he will really like that. So those were my 2 main concerns for this year. I really wanted to get a good handle on our math and our language arts as we headed into this homeschool journey. Next was science and history. This was a bigger deal for his brother, but we did it as a family assignment, a family subject, so we just did it all together for the most part. We started the year very independent and slowly figured out how to make it a family subject, which I love, and I am going to be keeping it that way for at least this next year. So we used Easy Peasy All-in-One Homeschool, again, because it was easy peasy and it was free. And it did a good job, I think, for what it was. We will not be using this again next year in full. It's a little bit dry and kind of took a lot of work on my part to figure out how to mesh the 2 together since they were on different levels. They don't have it set up so it's kind of a seamless transition, even though it's supposed to be taught as a family subject. It didn't always work that way. So I had to do a lot of work. The level was very good for him. So his level was grades 1 through 5, and it was definitely seemed to be geared towards the 2nd, 3rd grade, maybe even 4th grade levels. And so a lot of times my 5th grader dropped down and did his level with him. But we've learned a lot. We did earth science. So here's his volcano. And we have different little quizzes he did for the weather unit. We have, this is some map work we did for, I think this is the rivers of the world. Some of the longest rivers. And we had fun. It had some good experiments to do, good suggestions. We found some really good videos. But I think we will be looking for something a little bit more engaging next year. In fact, going off of that, we have spent, so the last part of this earth science was supposed to be space science. So we actually switched to the Good and the Beautiful's space science unit for this last section and stopped Easy Peasy. And so far I'm enjoying it a lot more. It's definitely really good for this age group and makes it very easy on me. Sometimes I supplement with some picture books from the library just for fun, and we have some videos online that we watch about the different planets that we really like. But I think we'll be sticking with the Good and Beautiful for this next year because it's really good for his age group, and that is kind of where a lot of the focus will be. Another thing that we did for science was we did take a break after Christmas from our regular curriculum. He was begging to learn about dinosaurs. So we did our own dinosaur unit. And that was really fun for me to kind of come up with my own unit and what I wanted them to learn and what could I learn myself. And we had a blast with that. I think we did it for a month. Yeah, it was so much fun to do that, to put it together, to just follow their interests. I'm not a very interest-led learner. I am in that I let them choose which science unit, but I like to follow a curriculum. That's just me. But it was fun to step out and do our own thing that's part of why we will be doing The Good and the Beautiful next year, is because it will give us some freedom to choose, but I'll talk about that later. We use Easy Peasy for history as well, and we chose to do modern history. So we started after the Civil War. It was mostly focused on American history. So we did the history of flight, a lot of history of World War I, and a lot of World War II. We were in World War II for like 2 or 3 months. It was a really long time. And my kids fell in love with learning about World War II, and so we've had a lot of fun reading extra books about that. And we just finished civil rights, and for our last 3 or 4 weeks of the year, we'll be learning about, I'm not really sure. I know communism is in there and the space race. I've liked the history, I think, better than the science. They've had some really good links to videos where we can watch we watched the actual signing of the peace treaty with Japan. We listened to the actual proclamation of war that England put over the radio against Germany. We watched Martin Luther King's speech. Sorry, my camera cut off and I didn't realize it. So what I was just saying was that I really liked a lot of the links that were in the Easy Peasy history setup, especially. So I do think that with my curriculum next year, I will refer back to Easy Peasy and look through the links and see what in there we will want to use, because I think there are some really beneficial things where my kids were actually able to see real history and what it looked like. The other thing we used Easy Peasy for was for electives. We used it for music, art, PE and health, computer and logic. And I think that we will be sticking with this next year. I did not do a very good job doing these. I had a hard time figuring out how to work them into our schedule this first year. So that is something that I will be taking time over the summer to look at more. But I am going to be using Easy Peasy as my structure for that. I really want my younger kids to be doing some art, some music. We did music better than anything else, and some of the health things. And they really enjoyed the logic games. Those were really fun. So I need to remember that that's there and keep it in my back pocket for a rainy day when I want them to do something, I need them to do something, but I don't want them to just sit and watch YouTube videos, which is what they would prefer to do. At least this works their brain a little bit. Over the summer, I will just need to take the time to sit down and actually plan that out. We decided kind of last minute that we were homeschooling, so I didn't have time to plan out more than really just the basic subjects. So that is how that went. We tried not really a handwriting curriculum. I made up my own handwriting for them to copy and do, and it didn't really seem to help that much, and they hated it pretty much. So we are gonna try a handwriting curriculum next year. I may have him start typing because I'm hoping maybe that will help his writing a little bit if he can type it, and he can type it better than he can write it. I think that's the majority of that. Yeah, we read a lot of books. Maybe eventually I will put up a list of the books that we read just for school this year. I have kept track of their books for school, and I'm amazed at how much they read just for school, because I also know they read at least that many books outside of school. So that is how 3rd grade went for us, and it's been a blast. No, I'm sorry. Why do I keep saying 3rd grade? 2nd grade. 2nd grade. My kid is in 2nd grade. I do not want to rush him on to graduation. 2nd grade. Let's all just take a deep breath, And remember that Hunter is in 2nd grade. Okay, so I hope y'all have a great day, and hopefully this helps in anybody out there who's trying to figure out for their first year of homeschooling what curriculum they might want to try.